Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kevin Lee Show. Thank you for coming on. This is an 8-part series that I will be releasing every week on Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. The preface for this interview is based around a primary question that I learned from Tony Robbins attending his Business Mastery event in Amsterdam. And it is based around, if your core business was completely disrupted tomorrow, what would you do? How would you pivot or innovate? And during this time of the recording, we're going through the COVID pandemic. And so I thought it was very fitting interviewing people from around the world in different industries to see how they've pivoted and innovated in their struggling industries. And so the idea is to inspire and encourage people who need it. And so I hope everyone can learn a few lessons from these experts. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
Today we have Stephanie Lentz. As a Seattle native, Stephanie has a deep appreciation for the natural beauty of the Pacific Northwest. With a background in teaching, she is passionate about educating the community on how to waste less and live more so that we can all improve the quality of our lives as we learn to walk more gently on the planet. Stephanie is motivated by her love for her family. Founding Scoop Marketplace is not only a way to create healthier food systems and heal the planet for her children, but also to show them that we are made to be a beneficial presence in the world, and we can do hard things. The tragic state of our planet may not be our fault, but it is our responsibility, and we all have enough good in us to do something about it. Her business, Scoop Marketplace, is a zero-waste grocery store in Seattle, Washington. They offer an efficient shopping experience with a variety of package-free groceries in one easy, accessible location. By sourcing products in bulk, they are limiting the need for disposable packaging and significantly reducing our environmental impact while saving customers time and money. Everyone, please help me welcome Stephanie Lentz.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for coming onto the show. So the first question I'd like to ask is, can you give us an idea of what your business was and how is it working today at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I own a business called Scoop Marketplace, and it is a zero-waste grocery store in Seattle, Washington, in the US. I'm not sure how specific I have to be. And the idea behind a zero-waste grocery store is basically that the customers can bring in their own reusable containers, and then they can purchase their desired quantity of our package-free food, home goods, and personal care products. So we're eliminating the need for disposable packaging and normalizing reusables. So we were operating the brick and mortar grocery store. We had been doing that for probably about 10 months prior to the pandemic.
Yep.
And it was going really well. We have a really nice community that we've been building. People really appreciate the service that we offer, and especially just our transparency with our values so that they know what kind of business they're supporting. And then I got pretty nervous with the virus and everything, and I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to have to just close and move everything into my garage or what. But what ended up happening is, because Scoop is an essential business, because we sell groceries, we actually got incredibly busy. So there was an opportunity to serve our community in a way that we had never done before. And I ended up creating a digital store on our website pretty much overnight, and just announcing that we were going to be offering pickup and delivery services, and we've been shipping some bulk goods as well. So we've had people from, not a lot of people, but we've had people from all over the United States purchasing, a 5-pound bag of flour from us, or a 2-pound bag of black beans, because they feel like they don't have access to that high quality organic product in a low waste packaging option near them.
So to recap, you've had a brick and mortar store and you started up as a zero waste, so reducing packaging, trying to make your stamp and help the environment, obviously. And then the pandemic hit and you launched a digital store. And from there, it started to go a bit crazy because people are needing essentials. We could see that happen around everywhere in the world. It's happening over here in Australia as well. Same time when people were having that scarcity mindset, they're running out and they're So over here was a lot more aggressive with the hoarding. I'm not sure what it was like over in the US at the time. But over here,
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
everybody was rushing out to trying to grab their supplies, and because there was so much uncertainty, right? There's so much scarcity, and they were scared what was going to happen, and they're trying to do the best that they could to stock up. And so,
Yeah.
how did you find your business model working? Because your grocery store model is different to your standard supermarket, obviously. So, if you could paint a bit more of a picture of how people would shop at your store, would you supply the packaging? How would that work?
Mm-hmm. So we don't have any packaging at the shop. We do sell reusable containers. So if someone wants to buy a glass jar or maybe a metal tin in the shop, they can do that. But we really encourage people to use what they have, especially, I mean, when you think about the number of, pasta sauce jars that we put into the recycle bin, there are so many containers already in circulation that we want to encourage people to use those before they buy new ones. So our customers bring in their own clean, dry containers. And that was definitely a need at least in the zero waste community. We're still trying to normalize it to make it more mainstream. But in the zero waste community, it is hard to find places where you can go and you can take your own containers. So then when the craziness hit, we were trying to figure out how to navigate that. Obviously, we want to keep everyone as safe as possible. And at the same time, we don't necessarily want to throw our whole business model out the window and suddenly bring in disposable packaging. So what we've been doing is we've continued to allow people to bring their clean, reusable containers, and we do a lot of hand sanitizing, and we also sanitize all of the surfaces. So even the bulk containers, the big jars that we're touching, we sanitize the outsides of those, and we use a lot of utensils. So we're always using funnels. So the funnels act as a barrier between the customer's container and our product and our scoops and our containers. So we use a new funnel every time. We have quite a few funnels in our rotation. And then we use new scoops for every product and of course for every customer. So there's very, very minimal risk of cross-contamination. And then the other thing that we started doing, and I was definitely resistant to this, I didn't want to use any kind of single-use packaging. I didn't want to use any kind of packaging that is, literally designed to be used one time and then thrown away, whether that's recycling or composting or actually throwing in the landfill. I just don't like the idea of using resources to make a thing that you only use one time. It seems absurd to me outside of maybe a medical setting. So I really struggled with that. But what I realized was that because people were staying home, they were getting groceries delivered from conventional supermarkets, and that came with a lot of plastic, much more plastic than they would have chosen if they were in the shop buying those groceries themselves. So I discovered that I could offer my bulk products in compostable bags, and that was a significant improvement. So it's not the best solution, but it was a way that I could add value for them. I could serve them in a different way and meet that need where it wasn't being met anywhere else.
Understood. And so how did you find the adoption from the customers? Were they quite open to bringing in their own containers or getting containers from you? How did you find because it's a different buying behavior pattern, correct?
Yeah, so I think the reason that it went well is because there is, like I said, there is already a zero waste community here. There's actually a group called Seattle Zero Waste, and they get together on a monthly basis and they have meetups. And the zero waste movement has been growing so rapidly. It's obviously, it's a big change in human behavior. Obviously, this isn't the norm for everyone, but the people who come to my shop come there on purpose. So it's very rare that someone comes in and is surprised that they have to bring their own container. And even if they are, they usually get it pretty quickly. They understand the general concept and the mission. Every now and then, very rarely, we have someone who's irritated that we don't have a plastic bag or irritated that we don't print a receipt for them. But in general, that doesn't happen. And what I really like about that is that it tells me that I'm I'm telling my brand story correctly and I'm attracting the right people, right? Because I don't want to attract people into my store who are going to be frustrated with the business model. That's really important to me.
That's it. Makes absolute sense. And how have you been reaching out to the community or the people? What platforms are you using? How are you reaching out to your customers at the moment?
I would say that Instagram is where I have had the most engagement. So about 2 years ago, I created my Instagram account and my Facebook page for my business. And I had created my business plan, but I wasn't actually doing business. There was no place where people could come and buy from me. I just started showing up on a daily basis, and I would just share tips and tricks and share little snippets of our lifestyle as a zero waste, plant-based family. And people responded really well to it. And I felt like they were very thankful because my mission is to teach people how to walk more gently on the planet. I'm sorry, it is late and I am tired. My mission is to teach people how to improve the quality of their lives as they learn to walk more gently on the planet. And my approach is very much about baby steps, just one little step at a time. There is this idea that, I don't know, the holy grail of the zero waste movement is being able to fit all of your trash for a year into one glass jar. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the thing.
Uh-huh.
And I am not into it. I'm not into it because I feel like if people think that they have to do that to live sustainably, they're going to give up really fast because there aren't very many of us who can just make that change overnight. And especially if you have a family, and especially if you have little kids, and especially if your partner isn't fully on board, it's unrealistic. So my approach from the beginning has just always been very relatable. I'm very transparent and open and honest about the waste that my family creates. And sometimes it's difficult for me. I've had a couple of secrets along the way that it took me a while to reveal. I remember the first time that I publicly said that my kids were using disposable diapers overnight, and I was just very embarrassed, but it felt important to me to relate to those moms who are trying their best and feeling guilty about it because it's just real life. It's just our broken systems. And I had to come to a point where I realized that I was jeopardizing our quality of life and essentially my children's health for my zero waste agenda. And that wasn't okay. So that's a lot of what I talk about and my growth on those platforms. Like I said, Instagram specifically, but Facebook as well, has been very organic and just slow and steady. And I've still been showing up every day. I'm actually taking a little bit of a break right now. I don't know how much you hear about what's going on in our little corner of the world right now, but things are pretty scary and unsettling. And there's a movement for the next week. This is the first week of June. I don't know when this will be aired, but there's a movement this week for white business owners specifically to take a back seat and stay silent on social media to leave space for people of color to amplify their voices. So navigating that has been a new challenge. I didn't want to go without bringing it up. I don't know when this is going to air, and it's really weighing heavily on my heart. So I'm thankful for that opportunity to connect with my community in that space. And it's a quick way for me to tell them where I stand on issues like anti-racism. And it allows them to really connect. They know for sure if our values are aligned or not. They know what they're supporting when they come and shop at my business. So I'm incredibly thankful for the platform and for how easy it has been to find my people and connect with them on a daily basis.
Yes, the heaviness is felt all around the world, even in Australia, where it's very far away, but the media doesn't leave anything out, and we're all very informed about what's happening. And our heart goes out to everyone there. It's a very challenging time on top of what we were already facing.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, and I think that everything and everyone, I think we're all going to be better for it. And I feel very optimistic and it's heavy now, and it's painful now, and it's challenging now. And I'm just a white girl saying that. So I can't even imagine, I can not possibly understand what other people are experiencing.
I understand. And I agree that I feel after all this has passed over, we will definitely rise stronger as individuals and as communities and as groups. It brings a sense of togetherness and cooperation and community, and a lot of empathy and compassion as well. So
yeah,
fingers crossed to, it'll all come out on the other end eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
And just going back to some of the stuff that you were saying, it's great. I really love that you're doing education-based marketing from the beginning, before you were even opened up your shop. You were embodying what you are about. You were living that, what you're selling, and you were doing the best that you can in zero waste, but not in a, as you said, in a strict way these days where whole life waste, your whole year's waste fit in the jar. It's just not practical, and it's not realistic. And you're coming from a space where, from my observation anyway, that it's in stages, and it can be done, and it doesn't have to be 0 to 100, and it can be at different levels. And so it's great that you're using that model to share, build your community, build your audience, and then release your business as a space for them to then be able to purchase things from you. And it works both ways.
Yeah, I think it really set the stage for what I was going to do when I opened my business. And I think that it has helped people to feel like I understand where they're coming from. And so when they come into the shop, in general, they feel comfortable and they feel welcome. And if they've been following me, if they came there on purpose, which most of them did, they know that it's a non-judgmental space, and that I don't expect them to be living 100% zero waste. And that I am very sensitive to the fact that sustainability is multifaceted, and we all prioritize different areas of that. And we prioritize different things at different times and for different reasons. So when it comes to a certain type of food that I'm feeding my family, I might choose the organic option that is not local. And in other circumstances, I'm going to prioritize finding the local option because I'm not as concerned about the organic. So it's just kind of one of those things where I made it very clear what kind of a culture I was cultivating ahead of time. And I just think it's important, just kind of all around in terms of values, for people to know where you stand so that they don't have to worry, what do they think, or is this okay, or is this allowed, or am I accepted? And I try to communicate as clearly as I can on many subjects. So I am thankful that I took that approach too, because it was kind of one of the very beginning steps of showing up just imperfectly, showing up before I had it all figured out. And that has made it a little bit easier for me to continue doing that, even as I'm taking bigger and bigger risks and doing bigger things, because people like to feel that they're a part of the journey. So I think it is, when you can, I think it is really important to just start talking about it from the beginning and let them contribute and let them feel like, they've watched you blossom. I think that is a unique connection that you can have with your community.
Even with myself, as you know as well, I have a cafe back in Sydney, Australia, and my journey into the zero waste concept started last year when I picked up a book called Zero Waste by Anna, and I forgot her surname. I've got to pull it up to link it out for everyone. But it was suddenly a conscious hit for me how much waste I was producing as a shop, not on a personal level, but on a commercial level. And I kept thinking to myself, I've got to do something about this. Even if it's the smallest thing, I've got to do something about this, because I can't just keep going. Even if I'm going to do some damage, at least lessen the damage. I've got to do my part and be responsible for my actions. And going down that rabbit hole has taught me so much and has increased my awareness into different practices that I can adopt. And it's something I'm becoming a lot more passionate about, and something I'd love to discuss with you further, even if it's off video, ways where we can develop something to create more of this movement, even in other parts of the world. For example, in Australia, there's a lot of boundaries, a lot of challenges, as I'm sure a lot of other places are experiencing, in how we can do this sustainably, consistently, um, for commercial businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we could definitely go down that rabbit hole. But before I do, I just want to backtrack and go towards, you're obviously very passionate about zero waste. I don't think it's something that just comes out of nowhere. I feel like a story that, you don't just suddenly, dream to be, zero waste kind of thing. It has to come from a point where, a situation in your life. So if you could please share with us why you're so passionate about zero waste, and how did it come about for you starting Scoop Marketplace?
It's an interesting question, especially because I think, if you go back 10 years, well, if you go back 5 years and tell me what I'm doing now and the movement that I'm involved in, I think I don't know what I would think. I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you. So I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and I have always enjoyed being out in nature. I'm not super outdoorsy. I mean, I don't want to go backpacking for a week or anything like that. But I do enjoy the beautiful green trees that are here, and the mountains and the ocean. And I think I thought I lived a very environmentally friendly life. I've always known about recycling and try to make good choices and, things like that. But then I guess, well, we started watching documentaries on Netflix. We went through a period of unemployment when our son was brand new. So my husband and I were both unemployed, and our baby was keeping us up all night, and we just watched a lot of Netflix. And that's when we decided to switch to a plant-based diet, which I was very resistant to. Not very resistant, but I'm a baker, and butter is very important to me. And it took me a long time to find a suitable substitute. And actually, now that I've got my vegan butter, I would never go back. The butter I like is called Neo Goes, and it's just so incredible. As I mentioned, butter's important to me, so there you go. But when we switched to a plant-based diet, I started doing all this research about all of our food and where it was coming from. And what I learned was that even by purchasing food that's locally grown and organic, it doesn't mean that we're escaping the pollutants that are already in our water and in our air and just in our soil. Even if there aren't pesticides sprayed directly on these plants, the whole thing's already polluted, the whole planet. And that was terrifying. So the more that I learned about plastic pollution in the form of microplastics and then chemicals leaching from plastic packaging directly into our food, the more it just freaked me out. My eco-anxiety was just on high alert, and I didn't know how to solve the problem, but I knew that I could stop contributing to it. And so that was how we started in our house, was just figuring out how can we reduce our waste. And of course, I wanted to go extremely zero waste overnight. And my husband was like, you need to calm down. So I took it one step at a time, and we did significantly decrease the waste in our house. And it's interesting, kind of the other pieces of the puzzle that come into play. Once you get into low waste, then there's also plastic free, and learning about the chemicals in plastic and why you want to avoid it as much as possible. And then maybe a little bit of minimalism thrown in here and there. And as I mentioned, like a plant-based diet or a vegan diet, and it all just kind of snowballs. So a couple years into it, I noticed that even though we had reduced waste in so many ways in our household, it's still really hard to go to the grocery store and not come home with a bunch of trash. Even as plant eaters, where we eat a lot of produce, still I have to get the pasta in packaging, or different things like that. So I don't even know when I started doing this, but I was following some zero waste stores in Europe I was following them on Instagram, and I thought it was so interesting. Seattle seemed like the perfect environment for that kind of a business. And it seemed really strange to me that we didn't already have something like that. And I just decided to go for it. And I think, I was definitely very motivated by fear, especially as a new parent. I think there's something to be said for realizing what's been done to the planet that you're leaving to your children. And I would really like them to have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink and food that grows outside and is nourishing to their bodies. So it just kind of happened. I don't really know how I got here, but I'm here and I'm doing it.
I think your courage is inspirational, Seth. A lot of people, for them to go from something they believe in into an idea and then straight into an investment into a business is not an easy feat. Kudos to you for getting out there, doing what you believe in, and sharing what you do. It's
Thank you.
not an easy thing, I think. That's for sure. And obviously, there's a lot happening, as we were talking about at the moment with COVID. Going into the future, how do you think it could change your industry? Or your thought on the future of your industry, even?
From the beginning of the pandemic, I have felt very optimistic because I feel like, how could you go through something like this and not be desperate to find a way to make our planet a healthier place to live? So I do think that this whole experience is going to be eye-opening for many. And now, of course, that has expanded into an area of social justice that I wasn't expecting earlier in the year. And I think it's all good. I feel really weird saying that because it does not feel good, but I know we already talked about this, but I think that, this vision that I have of a sustainable future for all, of course, is completely intertwined with social justice. You can't have a sustainable future for all if it's only for some. And obviously that doesn't work. And I think this is such an incredible opportunity for people to really reevaluate pretty much everything about their lives, pretty much everything that they're doing, all of their habits, all of the, systemic beliefs that they don't even realize that they have. And it's, something that's as simple as, so during the pandemic, if people are trying to avoid the grocery store and they're trying to stay home and they don't want to go out, but then they run out of something that they rely on, they run out of a disposable product and they don't want to go get it. They don't want to go to the grocery store and be inconvenienced by that thing. And so all of a sudden they're seeking out the reusable alternative, and that's great. I'll take it. Like that's a win. That's awesome. And so I think people are realizing I think for the first time in a long time, disposables are less convenient. Actually, they're actually providing an inconvenience because you have to go get more. But if you just had the reusable one, you could just wash it and carry on with your life, So I think that is an interesting opportunity just to reconsider those behaviors. And I have a digital course. So I teach people how to open a zero waste store. So my digital course is called Zero to Zero Waste Hero, Your Roadmap to Opening a Zero Waste Store. And I have 9 students in my program right now. And I sincerely believe that this is the best time for them to be creating their business plans and taking the steps that they need to get those businesses set up. Because I think that as zero waste business owners, we are uniquely positioned to serve our communities in a whole new way and on a completely different level. I think that this industry, I think it's just going to take off. I think it's going to grow rapidly. And it's really impressive to me how many zero waste stores are opening in the US just this year. And it's a big step because last year there were only just a few of us. And I feel like I see a new one pop up on Instagram every day. And now that I get to lead some of these zero waste shop owners and teach them what I've learned and my experiences and the expensive mistakes that I can help them avoid, it's really, it, I really do feel optimistic. I have so much hope. I really do. I think we have a very bright future ahead of us.
I love the optimism, and I also think that it's a forced pause, right, for a lot of people, that you have to pause, sit, and reflect, and to see what your actions are about, your thoughts are about, what you're doing, and I also love that how you're like connecting your personal journey to what you're doing now is also it's almost very similar in a way, where now that you've created these courses to help educate people to become more aware and even start their own work, their own zero waste stores, it's like your journey from the beginning, how you're exposed to more documentaries and learning and books, and that education is what brought you awareness, and from that awareness brought you action. And you've walked that path to create your business, and now you're doing it successfully. And you have every right to share with people as well, hey, this is what I did. And, this is also my journey. It came from, education, awareness to action. And it's a beautiful kind of loop tie-in that you're working on there. And I think it's a great time to also segue into what are some of your favorite mistakes or failures that you've had on this journey, and what did you learn from them? And it could be one, and it could be a few, and it could be a small mistake, or it could be a big failure, whatever comes up for you.
Well, I think there are a couple of different ways that I could approach this, because I'm sure I've got mistakes and failures all over the place, but I could speak to them in regards to my journey towards a more sustainable lifestyle, or my journey as a business owner. The mistakes and failures on the business owner side are far more significant.
Yes.
Well, I think that one of my biggest mistakes, actually, that can go on either path, is allowing myself to, allowing fear to hold me back. So I tend to want things to be or look a certain way before I share them with other people. And I can have some high expectations for myself and my work, and not just high expectations, impossible expectations. And I am definitely prone to, I just want to wait for the perfect circumstances, and I will prepare and procrastinate until the end of time. Nothing will ever get done. That's my natural tendency. And there are definitely instances where I've done that. Either I am, waiting to share something from a zero waste perspective until I feel like I've mastered it, or I'm waiting to launch a new service or product in my business until it's, just right. And then when I do come out and share that thing, or talk about it, or offer it, I end up having to do it imperfectly anyway. I end up having to take imperfect action, of course, because it can't be perfect. And I almost always wish I had done it sooner, because it's helpful to people and people find value in it. So for example, if I'm sharing something that I've struggled with on my zero waste journey, like when I shared about the diapers, other people needed to hear that. Other people needed to, let themselves off the hook for that same thing, and give themselves permission to make the decision that's best for their family, even if it doesn't feel like it's best for the planet in the moment. And I think that when we do allow ourselves to be held back by fear, we're withholding our greatest gifts from the people who need it most. And that can be a difficult thing to see. but I'm here to be a beneficial presence and to add value to my community. And I want to continue to do my best to show up imperfectly and give them the best of me at the moment, not the best of who I think I could maybe be someday in my head, but who I am right now.
Well, I do agree with what you're saying. It's very, even personally as a business owner, there's that fear of, for myself in a similar case, what people would think of it, what people would think of me, and so that almost perfectionism sometimes becomes a long life procrastination, and
Yeah.
you don't end up doing it. And I've also over time tried to roll things out as fast as I can, because it's never going to be perfect, even if I did take another month or two to really knuckle it down, because when it gets out there, it's still not going to be perfect. And I still have to reiterate, and I still have to get better at it. And so you might as well just let it go now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then improve upon it. And then the rest will be history, because the better product, service, or message will get out there eventually. But you kind of need to slowly build up the momentum versus get paralyzed in fear and not share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And one of my favorite questions is, well, what daily tools or rituals do you have to improve your well-being or business? And this could be related to zero waste, and if it's not, that's okay too. Your call.
I'm terrible about rituals. I love them. I love routines and I love structure, but I struggle to implement it in my life. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Yes, I am. The
What
personality
number
diagram.
what number are you?
Oh, it's been a while, but I think it was achiever.
Okay.
And
That does not surprise me.
and I only remember the first three. Well, I did remember the first three. I'd have to pull it up somewhere. But yeah, I think it was like number wise, I remember along the lines of 1, 3, and something else. I can't remember.
Yep, that sounds right to me. With what little I know, and many of the people in this space of the digital course knowledge business, there's a lot of threes in there, and I am a 9, which is highly unusual. I as an entrepreneur in general, so I'm a peacemaker. So 9 is peacemaker. So I prioritize harmony, and I'm very much a people pleaser, and it is very, very difficult for me to be an employer. I don't like making decisions, and I'm incredibly ambitious and creative, and I have big dreams, but generally low motivation, which is really obnoxious. So when it comes to having a daily routine, I love the idea. It sounds lovely, and I can, create this whole morning routine, and it's wonderful. But then actually implementing it, I don't have that threeness in me where I just can stick to the routine and get it done. So anyhow, what I like to do when things are going the way that I want them to, my kids wake up pretty early. They usually wake up at 6. And what I like to do is I like to get up at 4:30 when no one else is awake. And if I can, I don't usually, because I don't want to risk making any noise, but I love if I can make a cup of tea and sit on the couch in the dark all by myself, and then just turn on a little lamp and journal. And I don't do a lot of journaling, and actually that part is hard for me, but I like the structure of writing down 10 things that I'm thankful for, and writing down 3 to 5 mantras depending on what I feel like I need or I need to remind myself of. And then once I've gone through that routine, I love it if I can have an hour or an hour and a half to just get work done before other people wake up in my house, because I just feel like I've already been productive. I've already done something for me. I started my day, creating and reflecting instead of jumping on my phone or getting into my emails or something like that. And I just always feel so much more excited to see my kids when they wake up if I got to start my day like that. So that's what I would be doing ideally. But I would say that what does actually happen regularly, not very much. But if I can make a hot cup of tea, that is like my favorite. Just being able to sit for 5 minutes and drink it while it's actually warm, that fills me up. And at this time of year, getting outside, I definitely need sunshine on my skin. It's very, very important for my well-being.
Thank you for sharing. I'd like to dive just a little bit into some of what you've just said. Could you give me an example of a mantra that you use, just so I have an idea of what you mean by mantra? And
Yeah. Do you mind if I grab my journal?
of course, of course.
So at some point, I started making a list of different mantras that are helpful to me. And some of them I've gotten from books, and some of them just kind of felt like what I needed in the moment. So most recently, well, I like Everything is Figure Outable, which is Marie Forleo. That book is incredible for anyone who hasn't read it. And I Can Do Hard Things, which comes from Glennon Doyle. She's also amazing. And then Keep Moving Forward, which is a Walt Disney thing. I'm a big Disney nerd, so I also sneak in any inspirational Disney anything whenever I can. And let's see, I'm becoming better every day. My success is inevitable. I'm leading my family to financial health, wealth, and freedom. I keep my promises to myself. I show up for me and I follow through. Those are some of my favorite ones. There's another one that I'm thinking of, but I can't quite remember what it is. It's not coming to me, and I don't see it readily available, so I won't make you wait for it. But yeah, just just little things that, like I said, it kind of changes from day to day depending on what I feel like I need to hear. And then the other thing that I'm just starting to get better at is I tend to ask myself things like, I tend to plan for worst case scenarios. And I tend to say like, oh, well, what if this happens? And I've been learning to ask myself better questions, because your brain will look for evidence to support whatever you've already decided in your head. So if I've decided that something horrible is going to happen, then my brain just looks for things that make that feel more true. So starting to ask myself things like, what if everything turns out better than I could have ever planned? So that's helpful to me to get me back on track and get me looking for evidence of the positive outcome instead of the negative one.
I'm a big fan of journaling and the process, and I love that. The gratitude process, the mantra process, it's all things that I find very helpful day to day. I think reminding yourself of such powerful lines and words continue to inspire you each day, instead of, it's like you're feeding yourself the content that you choose to feed versus allowing certain content to enter you without permission sometimes. And yeah, it's a beautiful space. Another maybe a bit of a weird question was, you said at the moment what you love is to have a nice warm cup of tea in the morning. For some reason, I'm getting this vibe that you love your teas and that you probably have a good selection of teas. I may be wrong. What tea do you like to drink?
So I love trying new tea. And actually, we have a tea shop not too far from us. And my husband and I love to just go study and just always try a new type of loose leaf tea. It's really fun. But when it all comes down to it, I like English breakfast tea with milk. And I don't know, I think it's just, I lived in England for a very short time, but I think it just is this comfort thing. It's like the routine, it's, steadfast. It's almost always the same. I will admit, it was one of the hardest things for me about going vegan, was that my tea didn't quite taste the same, but I've figured it out. I'm doing better. I use cashew milk. It's still not the same, but it's still good. But I've got another one in my house that I really like right now. It has peppermint and marshmallow root and slippery elm, and it's just really fresh and nice. And then my kids have something we call mama tea. I don't know how it became mama tea, but we will do something like, you know, honey and apple cider vinegar or lemon juice and ginger. Well, the kids don't like the ginger, but I do. So yeah, we like tea. And no coffee, no caffeine. I can't do it, but tea, definitely.
Wow. Great. My senses were correct about your tea, your love and passion for tea. And as we wrap up, Stephanie, where can people learn more about you and your businesses? Where should they go?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So Scoop Marketplace is pretty easy to find, scoopmarketplace.com, and then at Scoop Marketplace on Instagram and Facebook. And then for people who are interested in learning about the digital course and the other trainings that'll be available, that is called Scoop Intelligence. So that information can be found at scoopmarketplace.com, but there's also a separate Instagram and Facebook account. And then just to be really over the top, I actually have a third one called The Scoop with Steph. And I wanted to have a place where I could connect with other entrepreneurs, especially sometimes it doesn't feel appropriate for me to be using the shop platform to, you know, I don't know, to share the work of other entrepreneurs and encourage them and collaborate with them in that way. So I have The Scoop with Steph on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm just starting to use that platform to teach cooking and baking. I'm very passionate about food. I'm self-taught, but it was my personal mission to make sure that my family didn't feel at all left out when we switched to a plant-based diet. So I make really fantastic plant-based food. You would never know that it's vegan. And I wanted to start teaching people. So I'm actually going to be creating a course. I'm going to start with the plant-based pie course because I'm really good at pies. You know, I'm not the most confident person, but I'm not at all humble when it comes to my baking skills.
Well, wow, there's so much going on. I will make sure to include everything in the show notes and the links so everybody can find you. Stephanie, it has been such a pleasure. I've had so much fun with this wide-ranging conversation. I love your courage. I love your enthusiasm, and Godspeed. Please keep going. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This was fantastic. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled Kevinly. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.